Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Talk About Watches Live. My name is Tim Temple, and along with my partner, Michael Davis, we are the co-founders of TalkAboutWatches.com. Tonight it's our pleasure to welcome back Craig Hester, certainly one of the more popular and deservedly so guests that we've had so far. Before we get to Craig, who tonight is going to be exhibiting some fantastic Vostok-Europes, by the way, I want to go over a couple of things. First of all, if you haven't signed up yet for our email list, you really should. I promise we're not going to spam you. We hate spam too, and it's a great way to get a heads up on some of the deals that we are literally doing on a daily basis. Plus, you'll have access to Watch Talkers, which is a closed group on Facebook that has first dibs on everything, even ahead of the email groups. So please join us. You can find out how, obviously, on the splash page at talkaboutwatches.com. Another thing I want to go over is our relationship now with PayPal Credit, because what that does is gives you guys very flexible payment options. I know a lot of you guys are used to what's being called 6-pay and that sort of thing, but this is even more flexible because when you qualify, you'll have 6 months of no payments and no interest, and anywhere in there, as long as you pay off the balance, it remains no interest. So you can skip a month or double down or whatever you guys want to do, and that option's available at checkout. So simply look for it as you're selecting your watches today. So as I stated earlier, it's our pleasure to welcome one of the most popular guests we've had to date. He is Craig Hester. Craig, of course, is known for Eastern European watches and Russian watches. So let's get the show underway. Well, hey everybody, as promised, Craig Hester is here. Craig, for those of you who don't know, is realistically the go-to guy if you're looking for the Eastern European builds and wristwatches. Craig, thanks for doing the show again, man. We appreciate that.
Great to be here, Tim. I was really excited about the first show. We moved a lot of watches, got a lot of great feedback.
We did.
Also want to say a shout out to you guys as a congratulations on how the show keeps growing every week. I've been watching the show every week. I watched you with Larry the other night. It was a great show. And how the viewership is growing each time and more people are interacting. So it's great to see. I think you guys are going to have a great 2018.
Well, thanks, man. I agree, and I appreciate you saying so. We're going to open tonight's show, guys, with a watch that you cannot buy yet. So I want to be very clear. And by the way, as we're getting into the shots of this watch, how you order all the special show pricing you're going to see tonight, just look off of the screen here, and you're going to see basically a chat and a comment area. At the top of that, you're going to see a link that is pinned, and just hit that, and all the show pricing is going to fall right down. Now, I'm mentioning this because I want you to know, but also because this first watch will not be in it. It's not available yet, but this is going to be the first, well, technically not the first, but probably the first serious live option to delve into the watch known as the Berlin Wall. Check this out.
Thanks, Tim. I'm really excited about this watch. This is the second watch from our brand Pramsius. So let me just quickly go over with people what this watch is all about. What it is this is a DNA watch. That's what they've come to be known as. And in the crown there, you can see these are actual pieces of the Berlin Wall, small crushed pieces of the Berlin Wall that are in the crown. The crown has a crystal cover so that you can see them on the inside. This is the original graffiti from the wall. It actually still exists at the East Side Gallery. The East Side Gallery is 1.5 kilometers of existing wall that's still there. It's the museum that keeps a part of the wall alive, as in memoriam of it. And a portion of the proceeds from this watch are actually going to go to the East Side Gallery so that we're properly using their art, which is the graffiti from the wall. And we went with, pretty straightforward. We chose the one where the artist chose to do the word Berlin because we felt like obviously that fit quite naturally. The main thing I like to get across right away about this watch, Tim, is this comes down to me is, what do you want in a watch? This watch here, my goal, the whole point behind it was to be a piece of nostalgia. I think most of our customers, most of the people who are collectors of our watches, they're old enough to remember where they were when the Berlin Wall came down. It's one of those moments in time. We always talk about them. You'll never forget where you were when you heard whatever. Unfortunately, a lot of those times tend to be tragic things. You remember where you were when the Challenger exploded. You remember where you were on 9/11.
Sure.
You remember where you were when the first Gulf War started. This is one of those
first
rare
time you saw Showgirls.
Yeah, well, that's true. This is one of those rare occasions that you get to remember something that was a real ebullient positive thing. You remember where you were because everybody was euphoric about the fact that the Berlin Wall had fallen. So I think it's the first thing I want to give a shout out to is, where do the pieces of the wall come from? Well, you're going to get a certificate of authenticity with this that says that these are actual pieces of the wall. And it's going to be signed by a gentleman named John Gapps. He's a former Associated Press photographer, and he was there when the wall came down. He was actually dispatched, and he was the only AP photographer on site. He took some of the most iconic pictures of the fall of the Berlin Wall. He and I are friends going back many, many years, and he had given me a piece of the wall years back, and I was thinking about it, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and I said, hey, I really want to do this in a watch. And I called up John. He's a Hollywood screenwriter now. And I said, hey, do you still have pieces of the wall? He said, yeah, I got big chunks. I took a whole box with me. And I said, well, would you be interested in donating some to do a watch project? And I would use your photography, and we would call it the John Gapps Berlin Wall Signature Edition and so forth. He was like, hey, man, that sounds great. Let's have fun. That sounds like a great idea. I'd love to be a part of that. So that's one key aspect of this, is that a gentleman who was there, who his photos are iconically tied to this event in history, he's tied to this watch, and he's certifying that these are actual pieces of the Berlin Wall. I mentioned earlier that the graffiti, and this is the actual graffiti that's on the wall. The dial on this watch is actual marble, Tim. You were actually, I'm not going to hide this. It's important to know. Tim was a part of the design process of this watch. I have what I've kind of come to call my Berlin Wall brain trust, or the Pramsius brain trust. And we all remembered that one of the most iconic parts of the whole thing about the Berlin Wall is when Reagan stood at the Brandenburg Gate and said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. I mean, whenever anybody thinks about the Berlin Wall, that comes to mind, of course. And the Brandenburg Gate is made of marble. So we decided, well, let's do a marble dial. And I want to be clear, guys, this is not faux marble. This doesn't just look like marble. This isn't like a stamped strap where it's made to look like alligator. This is an actual marble dial, which means every piece of the Berlin Wall watch is going to be unique, because the striations are going to be different and so forth, because it's a natural material. So then we took, and I think this was your idea, Tim, to flip-flop the 8 and the 9 on the dial, so that we would have it be 89 for the year. Obviously, normally, the 9 would be here and the 8 would be here. So we flip-flop them, easy for me to say, made them have that graffiti look as well. And that is tied to, obviously, the year 1989 when the wall came down. And then we added this compass look on the bezel. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a rotating bezel, nor is it we're making any implication it's a real compass or anything. It's just part of the overall look, because obviously directions are very important in this, with the east and the west and so forth. We did this aged plating so that it looked like a watch you could have literally owned since 1989. So the pre-age plating on it. The Brandenburg Gate is on the back. The limited edition is 1989, so we won't be able to any more than that. I think everybody can figure out what that's about. That's obviously, we're making it the same as the year. It does have a sapphire crystal, and it has the NH35 automatic movement. But this is about the story. This is about the history. This is about putting a part of your life on your wrist. And I know, I may be sounding a little hokey there, but that's how I feel about this watch. Some other things that, just in terms of what you're going to get in terms of value, you see it here on the leather, and it's that really cool distressed leather. There's also going to be a bracelet option for it. We haven't fully decided how we're going to do the packages yet, but there'll be one where you get everything. It'll be a bracelet, then it comes with the leather, and then it will come with actually another leather that is topped with the nylon. Because it was a split lug watch, as you can see there, it's a split lug watch. We couldn't do your typical NATO strap where it goes underneath the watch. The other thing that we did, Tim, and again, I'm not telling you anything. Tim's been so involved in this project, but we're building two different sizes of the same watch. It's going to come in a 42. If you're someone who doesn't like big watches, didn't want to go any smaller than a 42 because the dial is so important in this watch with the look and feel of it. So we didn't want to go any smaller than 42. And then there's a 48, which we felt like was plenty big enough for the guys who like big watches. I didn't want to go oversized like a 50 or a 52. So you've got two really popular sizes, and you're going to have that choice. The other thing we did was we didn't know if everyone was going to be into the bright colors. I want to make it clear, these colors on the graffiti, they are the actual colors that are the same as the wall graffiti. We wanted to be authentic, but not everybody's going to be into that kind of colorful look. So we did one where, and I'm hoping I can get this in the close shot, and I know we've got, oh, there we go. I think you can see where it's actually etched onto the dial instead of the color. So if you want something a little more subtle, you didn't want the full color look, you've got one etched. The other difference between these two is the surround of the 89 and the lume dots on the color one is all black, and then it's stainless or silver tone on the other one. And one other thing I don't want to forget about, Tim, is that the packaging on this is great too. We figured with a watch like this, we couldn't just go with the standard, box.
Sure,
so,
of course.
It's a leather-bound box. It holds up to 4 watches. There's space in there for the additional straps and so forth. We're also working on. We're going to have some really cool hoodies. We used a German graffiti artist, a current German graffiti artist, and we commissioned some new graffiti, the word freedom and the word liberty, and we're putting those on hoodies. So we're going to have a lot of different things going on with this watch. I did want to show, Tim, before we move on. This is the actual piece of the wall.
Oh, cool.
And so every piece of the wall that will be in your watch was hand broken off of the pieces of the larger pieces by yours truly. So you can't get any more directly showing, I don't think it gets any more hand assembled than that, Tim. So I wanted everybody to see that. I'm going to shoot some video of me doing that. So we are excited about it. When you add in all the components that go into this, the nostalgia, the fact that you're going to really, truly be wearing a piece of history on your wrist that you can actually see, I think it's going to make for a great watch for us in 2018.
And you guys can follow this by checking out talkaboutwatches.com. We'll keep you updated in the news section, and of course also at pramsius.com. All right. Again, that watch not yet available. I want to be clear, but we are now going to move to some show specials of watches that are available. So as we get into this, again, a reminder, if you'll just look off screen, you're going to see a very obvious list that's going to be comments and so on. And at the top of that list is going to be a link. And if you just click on that link, you'll immediately go to an area on talkaboutwatches.com where the entire show special pricing will fall, and you can start picking. You don't have to wait for a specific watch to hit the screen. Also, again, a reminder, if it will help you, use the PayPal credit option at checkout, because you can get 6 months of interest-free and no payments if you qualify, which gives you a huge flexibility. So do check that out. All right, let's jump into the first one. And Craig, remind me, which one is up first here?
Well, I think we're going to do the radio room first.
Okay, here we go.
So yeah, everything else in this show is going to be from Vostok-Europe. Vostok-Europe is based in Vilnius, Lithuania. It is a boutique watch brand that we've been doing business with for many, many years. We were their 3rd distributor in the world when they first started back in 2004. They are a phenomenal small watch brand. It is amazing what all they do for their size. Every watch is hand assembled there in Vilnius. They have their own in-house designers. They make everything 100% custom. It is just a phenomenal brand. I mean, they do things that brands much, much larger than them do, and do things that most boutique brands don't do. For instance, their own watch assembly, full watch assembly, starting with their own design, having their own distribution network and everything. So that's what Vostok-Europe is all about in terms of And their slogan is for going to extremes. And over the past, say, 10 years, 8 to 10 years, they've really started focusing on watches that are built for extreme sport conditions. This one is kind of a hybrid blend between storytelling and having a sport watch. As Tim knows, and anybody who's been following us for years, I was actually the person who came up with the idea to do the radio room with Vostok-Europe. If you want the one that looks the most like the clock, and we'll get back to what that means in a minute, this is the red and white, okay, with the matte sandblasted stainless steel. Then there is the red and black. So basically you're reversing out what you just saw in an all black look with the black PVD, and then the red on the black. And then there is the blue with the seafoam green, and this has that amazing blue PVD on it that is just, and as one thing I've been learning over the past few years, blue PVD is a very difficult and expensive process to do. Even though we're going to be having all the pricing be the same for this event on all of them, the blue PVD is actually a more expensive timepiece. So those are your three options. And while I'll just stay up here with the blue while I continue to tell the story. So I had this idea of 2011. In fact, I wanted to have it. It was tied to the 2012 was the 100-year anniversary of the Radio Room Act of 1912, which grew out of the Titanic disaster. As you know, Tim, one of the things that contributed to the loss of life, it didn't have anything to do with the accident actually happening, but contributed to the loss of life afterwards, was the difficulty of the radio room operators to get through all the chatter on the radio to get their SOS out. So the Radio Room Act created these radio silence periods. It did a number of other things too. They didn't have a 24-hour rotation in the radio room where they always had somebody at the radio prior to that for ocean-going vessels with passengers. So it added that as a regulation. But it added these radio silence periods. In the beginning, there was only two, one at the top of the hour and one at the bottom of the hour. Now, and then later they added, so there was one at every 15-minute interval. There were 3 minutes of radio silence, but the only thing you can do is emergency flash track. You can only go on and say an SOS, Mayday, whatever terminology you want to use. You can't go on and say, hey, Tim, let's get a beer when we get into port, or, let me tell you about what we've got in the cargo hold or whatever. It's got to be emergency flash traffic. So why did we do this in the Vostok-Europe, and why did we do a radio room? Well, you see the clock over my left shoulder. That is an actual clock made by the Vostok company of Chistopol, Russia, and I like to make it very clear always that Vostok and Vostok-Europe are two completely different companies. Vostok is based in Chistopol, Russia. Vostok-Europe is in Vilnius, Lithuania. While they share part of a name, they are not the same company. However, the movement in this watch is built by the Vostok company. This is a 32-jewel automatic mechanical movement with some really nice decoration on the back, that the guilloche on the rotor with the Vostok-Europe on there and the blued screws. This is actually the only decorated movement that Vostok-Europe uses. And so we insisted with the radio room that it have the original Russian movement in it because we wanted to be tying to the history of the clock. Now, I make no pretense, Vostok-Europe is not the only company in the world to make a radio room watch. There are several different radio room watches out there, but it is, I think that the combination of things that you get, what you get from it being Vostok-Europe, what you get from it being a Vostok movement and so forth. This one, as you know, Tim, the previous radio rooms, I'm just going to kind of switch back and forth here between the different color combinations. The previous radio rooms were used a different case. It had the rotating bezel on it. This is the first time that the radio room has been in what is quite obviously the Expedition North Pole case. Anybody who's been collecting Vostok-Europe for many years knows the Expedition North Pole case is probably one of the most easily recognizable because it is one of the few Vostok-Europes that doesn't have the rotating bezel because so many Vostok-Europe watches are dive watches. What I like about us making a decision to move the radio room to the Expedition North Pole case is the fact that because the dial is such a part of the story of this watch, the fact that there is no external bezel, the dial is just a full dial that runs all the way to the edge of the case, all the way to the edge of the bezel. So you really get a big impact of the dial on this watch. I do want to point out that with Talk About Watches and the special that we have that we're doing for the radio rooms for your show. They're going to get the dive case. Now, you're going to see the Mriya in here, which we're coming to in a minute. But this is the same case. Normally, the radio room would come in the standard Vostok-Europe packaging. But for this package, we're going to include the really great dive case. And when I say dive case, as you know, with Vostok-Europe, it is a serious dive case. Yes, this isn't just a case. This is heavy duty and the plastic is thick. This is a $60 value in and of itself, Tim, that's coming with the watch. And we're going to throw in a NATO strap. It'll either be black or it'll have some matching color combination. We're going to throw in a NATO strap. Normally, this watch only comes with one strap. So that's part of the deal that you're going to get. Now, obviously, as we said, to see the pricing, you're going to want to go to talkaboutwatches.com. But in terms of the deal itself, that's what we are adding in as some added value to go with this watch this time. The other thing, as you know, Tim, is the strap on this, because it is the Expedition North Pole, is just phenomenal. This is a multi-layered strap. That color white there in the middle, that is not just color on top of leather. That's an actual different piece of leather. They're actually layered. It does have the double tang buckle on it for extra security. And then the complications that are on this watch are there is a 24-hour subdial here in the top half circle, and then the bottom half circle is the day-night indicator. And I'm going to see if I can do this upside down and backwards. Probably not well. Hold on. It's got a nicely screwed-in screw-in crown. This is a screw-in crown on this. This is 200-meter water resistant. So this is a true professional grade dive quality watch. And as I move around, you can see how it moves from black to white in the window. So there's your day-night indicator on this watch. So you've got three complications, because anything beyond timekeeping is considered a complication. You've got the date, you've got the 24-hour, and you've got the day-night indicator. So it's a lot of watch for the money. It's a great story. It is one of the few Vostok-Europes anymore that does have the Vostok movement in them. Now, as you know, Vostok-Europe is sourcing movements from all over. They
Sure.
use Seiko, they use Ronda. Because they wanted other things to be what drove the watches. And so they're not, if you want the one that has the true Russian movement, there's only so many options available, and this new radio room is one of them. So.
Well, guys, monitoring this, it looks right now like the white background with the red. The one closest to the clock is probably going to go first. That could change, by the way. Obviously, we're still very early, but at the moment, that's what it seems like. Craig, can you walk us through the three color options again, and we'll take a look at some other things.
Okay. So, again, you've got the black on red with the black PVD. Okay, that is grade A PVD. This is surgical grade stainless steel. Oh, by the way, the watch does have the K1 mineral crystal, and that's a 3.5 millimeter thick crystal on this. So that crystal is as thick as most bracelets are. And the K1 process giving you right in the middle between sapphire and mineral. So you have shatter resistancy and scratch resistancy with the K1 process. So we've got the black and red. We've got my personal favorite, which is the blue and that seafoam green, just because this is just a fantastic color combo. And it's got the sun ray on the blue and that blue PVD that's just gorgeous. And then you've got, again, the one that is the closest to the original clock. You're not going to be able to really see it, but there you go. It's the closest to the original clock, which is the red and white. And I will tell you that the NATO that comes with it is actually orange. You're going to be like, what? Give me a break. But oddly enough, that orange stripe on the NATO is really close to the light colored red on the lighter section, because the two sections at the top and the bottom, they have a lighter look or a dashed look, and that's actually because in those two time windows you can only use Morse code, and then here in these two you can talk. Just a great story. The radio room has become hugely popular, as Tim knows. We've been making this since 2012. I think we're at the 21st execution in colors and so forth with this.
Good for you, man.
People have been collecting them for years now. They love that watch.
Craig, I know we've got to get to some other things. Really quick, just walk us through the price on this, and then we'll look at the Mriya.
Well, as I said, Tim, we made it so even though one is plated, one has the blue plating, one has the black plating, one is not plated, we made it where we flattened out the pricing. So there's just one price. It's a special deal for Talk About watches that includes like I said, it includes the box and it includes the extra strap. So you're getting all that for $349, which is a phenomenal deal. Especially you and I both know the Vostok movements, the real Russian movements are expensive. They cost more than any of the other mechanical movements that Vostok uses. And if you want the real Russian, you want the Russian movement, this is what it costs. But nevertheless, still at $349. That's a really good deal on this, especially with the extras that you're going to be getting with the Talk About Watches deal. I do want to make sure everybody understands that is a limited time. It'll only be at that price right around the time of the show, and then it's going to go back to full price, within 2 or 3 days after the show. So we usually base that on velocity and so forth, but it's not going to be a long period of time that price will be available. So it doesn't matter whether you get the white and red, whether you get the black and red with the PVD, or if you want to get the blue, which normally would cost more. But we have flattened the prices out, so you don't have to make a decision based on price. You make a decision based on which watch you like, and they're all at $349.
And again, to get the special show prices, and as Craig points out, this is only going to be for a very few days, and then the price reverts to the original. Just look off screen. There's going to be an obvious section where people are chatting and commenting. At the top of that, you're going to see a link. Click on that. All of the special show pricing for all of the watches are going to appear there. You don't have to wait for the watch to be on the screen. All right, let's move to the next one. And I got to say, as we get into this next piece, that the fact that this is an automatic is really, here's why I was about to say it's awesome, and it is. But this is why. You guys want a price break on a Vostok-Europe. Frankly, we are fortunate to be able to do what we do, and I think it's among other reasons because we're using 21st century tech, and we're able to cut out a lot of the costs that have been in traditional, if you want to call it video retail, that we're now able to get to some of these razor prices, and we're about to get to one of these right now. So let me turn you back over to Craig Hester and check out this price break on a beautiful automatic.
Yeah, Tim, this is actually a closeout at this point from Vostok-Europe. I do want to state right at the beginning that this is a pre-order. So we have them on reserve with Vostok-Europe until the show is over. And we will be bringing them in based on the orders we get from the show. So this watch is normally north of 500. Okay. And when we get to the features, you're going to understand why. This is the Mriya from Vostok-Europe. We are doing this at a special on Talk About Watches for $259. And when you hear what you're getting in this watch at $259, you're going to be like, wow. I mean, don't hesitate, guys, because I will make this absolutely clear. This is a closeout. Once Vostok-Europe has sold off what's left of these, this model is not going to be repeated. So this is an opportunity to grab. And we've got two others tonight at really good pricing as well. The Ana-digis, they cost a little bit more because it is a Swiss movement with the Ana-digi and the multifunction. But anyway, if you want an automatic with the NH35, professional grade dive quality watch, let's see, what's the ATM? Yeah, it's a 20 ATM. So that is professional quality on this. This is the largest watch that Vostok-Europe has ever made. This is a 50 millimeter timepiece, and it fits because it is named after the world's largest airplane, which is the Mriya, which means dream in Ukrainian, the world's largest transport aircraft. This is obviously a scale model. I would not be holding up in my hand the world's largest aircraft. So that's what the inspiration was for this watch. Just a phenomenal timepiece. It has great decoration on the dial, unidirectional rotating bezel, surgical grade stainless steel. It comes with the two straps. It's going to come with the leather. So it's going to have a black leather with matching contrast stitching and the white silicone. And it's going to come in the dry box. This one right now still has the Ana-digi in it, which we'll show in just a few minutes. But the dry box.
That Ana-digi is very cool, by the way.
Oh, it is cool. And you've got the screwdriver for changing out the strap. You've got the additional, in this case, it's the leather that matches with the blue. And then you got that's going to come with the watch in the same dry box we were talking about earlier with the radio rooms. And they are serious dive cases with Vostok-Europe.
Now, since we show that, I just, again, want to be very clear. We're about to get to the watch that was in that box, and if you hit the link there just off screen, you can buy it in advance if you wish. It's part of the Mriya series. Beautiful Ana-digi, but to be clear, the one that you're going to get right now is a final quantity. It is a factory direct price, and it is the mechanical automatic option. The point is, you're going to get that full package that Craig was just showing you. And Craig, again, I want to emphasize again, this is pre-order, so you'll wait a little bit longer to get it. But what a price break on the last quantity of this automatic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're talking about below wholesale.
Exactly.
You know, and again, that is a limited time only, and it's also limited by quantity. Once they're gone, they're gone. So you do not want to hesitate. I'm unscrewing the strap here, Tim, because I like to show, as you know, the bar, just to show the quality of construction of Vostok-Europe. I'm taking the strap out here. This has the built-in screwdriver. It actually has the Allen wrench style head. It's not a screwdriver, so to speak, but it's the driver that you take.
And they're getting that, right? Or am I misspeaking?
Yeah, that comes with the watch.
Yeah, awesome.
But I just like to show this. You take the bar out to actually change. Look at the bar. Let me see if I can get a close up on that. This isn't a spring bar. This isn't just a little, piece of metal holding this strap in. That is a serious bar that holds the strap in on this watch. As we talked about earlier, this does have the K1 mineral crystal, which is the best option for a sport timepiece like this. This is a big, if you like small timepieces, this is not the one to buy. Same with the Ana-digi that we're going to be talking about in a minute. This is a big, aggressive timepiece, thick, 50 millimeters across. I mean, it's not off the charts. I will say that. I mean, obviously, you and I both know several brands that do watches much bigger than 50 millimeter. Oh, sure. I've got about a little more than a 7.5 inch wrist. So you can see it on the wrist here. It's not overpowering. I've worn it. I've worn the Mriya, and I haven't felt like it was too much, but it is a big watch. So you've got to be comfortable wearing a big watch. Automatic, mechanical, with that workhorse of the NH35. But this one does happen to have the Expedition. I always say that because of the Expedition North Pole. Exhibition case back. Which actually in a dive watch is harder to do, to get 20 ATM and still have, because that's one more place where you've got to have the seal properly to still get the 20 ATM. But I think the big story on this one, I don't usually like to talk too much about price. You know that, Tim. I'm about value, not price. Right. But this is an incredible deal at $259.
Well, when you're talking about, and Craig, I agree with you. And sort of the premises early on would talk about watches live is we're not going to sit here and belabor price. But when you have a factory direct liquidation opportunity, price becomes, in my opinion, one of the features. And I'm often asked, obviously off screen, how do you go about collecting watches? And I think there's a lot of ways to go about it and do it properly. And I'll tell you, and I do practice what I preach here. When you have the opportunity to own some amazing watch at a factory direct liquidation price, you buy that watch. You just Absolutely. Do. It's going to be the best deal on the planet. And you've got a watch that still has all of the quality, the factory warranty, and in this case, you're even upgraded with the packaging and so on. So, yeah, Craig, in this instance, I do think that the price is part of the big deal.
Oh, absolutely. And you got that sandblasted stainless steel on this. You're not going to be disappointed, and you certainly aren't going to be disappointed at this price point. So, again, I just stress when they're gone, they're gone. Do you want to move on to the Ana-digi?
Yeah, let's take a look at the Ana-digi. And again, for these special prices, including the liquidation price, and once again, the liquidation model is an advanced order. We are going to be going to the factory with your orders and bringing them over. So it's going to take a little bit longer to deliver. Obviously, your purchase will be confirmed at the special price. To get the special prices, you want to go just off screen as you're watching us. You'll see the obvious place where people are commenting and chatting and so on. At the top of that will be a link. Just click on that. All of the special pricing will roll down. And again, a reminder, if you're used to getting the options of payments and so on, you have that option here with what is known as PayPal credit. So at checkout, you'll have that option. And if you qualify, there is 6 months, no payments, and interest free. So look at the website for details, but that is basically it. Okay, Craig, let's take a look at the last watch for the evening.
Well, there's two executions on this watch. This is the Ana-digi with the ISA Swiss movement in it. There is the stainless and blue option, which I really like the look on that one personally. I like them both. And then there's the green, and they're both going to come on a color match.
This is where we're going to immediately disagree, because I got to tell you, that green, that bright, vibrant green against that black, I think it looks amazing. So you pick the blue, I'm going to go with the green. And by the way, I get that not everybody out there wants this big, loud, in-your-face green. Totally get that. What Craig's going to do is he's including another strap. And again, this is one of the advantages of Talk About Watches. We're able to negotiate some extra bonuses for you guys. You're going to, I think it's leather, Craig, I think?
Yeah, there'll be a leather.
Right,
matching
and it's black, so you guys can tone these colors back if you want, and you're going to get the changing tool included. So this is a really nice kit to check out. Again, a Swiss Ana-digi.
And that's a good point to point out too, Tim. Yes, color. I definitely think this is one. If you want to make a statement on the wrist, you can't go wrong with this green.
Yeah, no doubt.
Definitely going to make a statement. And the blue does have the matching blue. It's not quite as as bright of a color as the green is on the green. The point about the Swiss movement, this watch actually is still a phenomenal deal. You're talking about a watch that's well north of 600 normally. We're doing these for $349. Now, why is this more than the automatic we were just talking about? Well, this is one of those cases where a quartz movement actually is more expensive than a automatic mechanical. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, this is Swiss. Swiss movements always cost more than, like, say, for instance, the Japanese, which is the NH35 is in the movement we were talking about earlier. And the fact that this is a Swiss movement with multiple functions. So this is a high-end quartz movement. I'm going to quickly show the different functions that this watch has. I'm going to try to get in on the second feed here, and hopefully Sebastian can pull it where it'll look decent. Right now you're seeing there's nothing in the digital display. I push the center, and now it moves to where you would set your alarm. And then you go to the next function, and this is a secondary time zone. So you've got a 2 time zone watch here. Then you move, and here's the chronograph. And the really cool thing about this chronograph, you can start it here. You can see it's a split-second chronograph. And then you can move on to other things, like here's the date, okay? And then we're back to the resting position where you don't have anything in the window, so you're saving battery. But then if you go back to the chronograph,
it's in the background.
You'll see it's still running in the background. So you can be on a different function. You can be setting your alarm. You can be checking your secondary time zone. You can change the secondary time zone. You can do all that while the chronograph is still running in the background. Then I'm going to stop it and reset. So you've got a lot of functions in this watch with the ISA Swiss quartz. This was the first watch that Vostok-Europe ever did with a Swiss movement. As you mentioned, it does come just like the one earlier. It comes in the dive. It comes in the dive box. Serious dive box with this watch. It comes with the additional leather strap, and on the green, you've got it with the contrast stitching for the green, but you've got the black leather, and then on the blue, the contrast stitching. Obviously, big shock is the blue on the black.
That is sharp.
So
these just look really good. Craig, can you show the box again one more time? Because one of the things, as you verbally we're getting into, is you guys do, and I say you guys, the Vostok-Europe group, these are real dive cases. I think the case by itself is what, I think like $60,
it's a
something like that?
value for the case. Just look how thick that plastic is. I took that out so you could just see how thick the plastic is on this. This is the inset. That's how thick you're talking about that this inset, if I put it in right, sits in here. And if you want to use it as like a box for, like on your boat or whatever, all of this will come out. So you can use it as a box to put your cell phone in or whatever, because this is 10 ATM water resistant in and of itselp. So this is
know that.
Yeah, I mean, you close this. It's actually not even easy to do. Listen,
wow.
I'm having a hard time closing it.
But that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, that's not a bad thing. That's a point of showing when we open these, when we get these in and we open these to put the watches in them and ship out, we actually have a tool for opening them because that is how, if we did this all day with our thumbs, when we're packing up watches, we would have a beat up thumb by the end of the day. That's how serious of a dive box this is, that when you seal it, it is sealed. This is not just a plastic case that looks like a Pelican case. This is a serious, serious dive case here. I mean, you will use this for years in and of itself as a utility box, regardless of the watch. So yeah, and then it's got a place for it has the screwdriver with the matching color on the screwdriver, place for the secondary strap for the watch, and so forth. And we haven't mentioned this, Tim. It's important to point out. These all do come with a 2-year warranty, backed by the Detente Watch Group, our company, and by the manufacturer. And that warranty is the same, even though these are on a clearance price here. So you do have a 2-year warranty on this watch.
Okay, so guys, as we're looking at this, just to be clear, Craig has now picked up the first of the 2 Mriyas we're showing you tonight.
Yes, and I want to make sure everybody understands too, Tim. You have the white automatic, and that's at the $259. This is on a pre-order. Also, the other 2, that means we're going to reserve with the manufacturer. We're going to be bringing them in as soon as we get the orders. The other 2 that we were just going over, the 2 Ana-digis, they're also on a pre-order from Talk About Watches. We've got reserved quantity at Vostok-Europe as soon as the orders come in. So you're going to wait just a little bit longer, guys. It's actually amazing how fast it can be. We do speed shipping. Sometimes we get them the next day, even though they're coming from Vilnius, Lithuania. They're going to come in very quickly, but because you're getting such a phenomenal deal, you're just going to be waiting a little bit longer. Remember, you've got the blue option and you've got the green, and these are at $349. So phenomenal
with the Swiss movement, which is actually unique among the Eastern European builds, because they don't really go to the Swiss all that often. So it's kind of a collectible, I think, from that side of things.
And one little cool thing that I do like that Vostok-Europe does with their divers, and I know you always joke it looks like an Arby's receipt, but this is actually the water resistance test when they test the watch, and they put the actual limited edition number of your watch on the sheet after it prints out, so that you see that it passed the water resistance test. So the kind of the recap, we've got the Berlin Wall watch, again, not for sale yet. We're hoping to do Kickstarter within the next 6 weeks. Keep your eye out at pramsius.com. Keep your eye out at talkaboutwatches.com for more information.
Yeah, we'll keep you in the loop on that for sure.
Berlin Wall watch. And we've got 3 options of the radio room, all of them at the same price with the $349. They're coming with the dive case and additional strap, which normally radio rooms do not come with that. So that's a special we're doing here at Talk About Watches. And I'm just showing you all 3 colors again. And then we've got the closeout, blowout, fantastic pricing on the Ana-digis. The blue, the green.
I'm telling you, that green is amazing on that one. It really is.
So some great deals this week, Tim. I hope we'll be back again soon with you guys, and I want to keep doing shows. And and I appreciate, by the way, I appreciate you taking time to talk about the Berlin Wall tonight. I know that wasn't a watch that we've got currently for sale at talkaboutwatches.com, but I appreciate you're allowing me the opportunity to go.
Well, Craig, first of all, I'm a fan of that watch, and secondly, I'm looking forward to where that watch is going to be on Talk About Watches. And I'm telling you guys, seriously, that is one of the most interesting collectible wristwatches I've ever encountered. And you can argue that I'm part of the team, and I'll give you that, but it doesn't change the fact that it truly is. So check it out. Look for the news section at talkaboutwatches.com, and of course updates via pramsius.com, and for that matter, both of the Facebook pages. We're going to wrap things up. My special thanks again to a great friend and a great colleague in the business, and that is Craig Hester. Craig, thank you for being here. My name is Tim. On behalf of myself and the entire team here at Talk About Watches, Michael Davis, of course, my partner, Sebastian Lapine-Waugh, director this evening, thank you, and we'll see you guys back very soon. Be well, everybody.
Be well.